City, 1912, July. And I stepped down in New York, and I landed in East New York. One of my uncles had there 2 rooms, so I stayed with him. I was really surprised when I came in New York. I came from the capital of Poland, Warsaw, in Polish Warszawa. I came from a city, a beautiful city. The streets were paved. The streetcars were running by electricity. When I came in New York, the streetcars were running horses pulled in. And I said to myself, Poland, where does Poland come to America? They claim in America you pick up gold to the streets. And here they have cars, horses have to pull them. Well, in the capital of Poland, they have electricity. Well, it was a real hot day in New York when I arrived. It was July. It was terrible. And there, my uncle had rooms there. I think the name of the street in East Baltimore was called Stanton. You can imagine when you walk out of your room from the house and you're on the sidewalk, you have to watch. You know what the New Yorkers used to do? You always had to watch to walk in the middle of the street, because they used to throw the garbage through the window. Later on, when I was in America, I was reading the same thing was going on in Italy and Rome, and they put a stop to it. Just imagine, you walk in the street and a bundle of garbage comes down on your head. That was New York. Filthy, dirty. It was hard to believe. Here I come from a beautiful city, trees, flowers. You can't find a cigarette butt. So clean. You know, it's terrible, you see. When you see things like that, you wonder, how is it possible? Everybody is running to America. And here you come to America, you come to one of the largest cities, and it's so filthy, dirty, terrible. That was New York.
I guess things were a lot cheaper then. I guess things were a lot cheaper.
Oh, you would buy for a nickel. There was a lot of peddlers with push carts. You would buy for a nickel a bunch of bananas. You could live a whole day on bananas. That's the way it was. Or you could go in a bar, buy just a glass beer. You would get those, you know, those big glasses, and then you could eat a supper and a dinner from the bar. Keep eating. They used to give away things, very cheap. That's the only thing was in New York.
When did you come to Baltimore?
You couldn't starve from hunger. I stayed in New York a year, and I had cousins in Baltimore. So I wrote to them and told them if I knew the way America looks, I wouldn't come. It says America is very big, and New York is not the only city. When you come to Baltimore, you couldn't find a butt of a cigarette. So I stayed in New York, and I told my cousin I'm going to New York, in Baltimore. I came in Baltimore 1914, and the car stopped from the Union Station, Baltimore and Broadway. You know the drugstore right there. I should know I'm going to be a customer there. And that drugstore, if you walked in, you wouldn't believe it. It was so clean and nice. The pharmacists were dressed, not like we know it now. You wouldn't believe it how clean it was. A beautiful drugstore. The pharmacists were dressed in white. The streets had cobblestones, but you couldn't find a cigarette butt. And they used to talk about Baltimore having white steps. That was true. The city was clean. I tell you, it was terrific how clean Baltimore is.
Where did you live?
Huh?
Where did you live?
Well, I stayed with my cousins. And then you know, in the capital of Poland, I did different work what I did in the United States. In the capital of Poland, I worked what they call it a second grade restaurant. It's a combination. They sell all liquors and also if you want to eat. I worked there 4 years until I came to my senses and I picked myself up one morning and carried my little bundle. Where are you going, Sammy? I'm leaving for America.
Are you glad you came?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, you know, it wasn't easy. The first few years wasn't easy. It was tough.
Do you think you've had a good life?
But I didn't have a problem with jobs, no sir.
No, I know.